Hello, everybody. Welcome to my workshop again. So, today we are talking about a topic that is very, very close to my heart, and that is event organization, and specifically how you can actually execute a kick ass event, be it a conference, be it a meeting, be it a workshop, when you are on a very, very tight budget. So, we're going to talk about this very topic today. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, any experiences from your events, from event organization, please let me know. What I'm going to be doing when I'm done with my rant about how to execute kick-ass event, I'm going to be taking questions as well. So if you want to ask anything, let me know. And I'll be also grateful to see who is joining us today. So if you're with me, if you can see me, please use the comment box on the side and let me know where are you joining us from and what is interesting for you about this very topic, except of course myself and the fact that I'm doing this every week. So this is, by the way, week 17 of our sessions. You can tune in every Thursday, and I'm bringing you topics related to clever event design, leadership tips. I'm bringing cool guests, and you were missing out if you were not joining before. Luckily, you can still find recordings of all of those sessions on my LinkedIn profile or my YouTube channel. So much for the shameless plug, and let's talk about the topic of the day, which is how you can execute a kick-ass event when you are on a tight budget. So, first of all, who am I to talk about this? Why should you even listen to me? Well, you could listen to me because I've done quite a few events in the last couple of years. So in just 3 years, I did participate on the preparation, design, and execution of about 70 or a little over 70 events. And we served over 18,000 participants combined in large-scale events, most of them 100 people plus, some of them much bigger than that. And I have learned the hard way some things that work and also some things that do not work. So that's what I want to share with you. And specifically, I'm going to talk about the budget part. So let's get to it. First of all, I believe that no matter how huge your budget is, no matter if you're made of money or not, you're always going to be on a budget. You always have some limitations. Either it is money, and it might be just the limitation from above, from your boss, or if you are a small company owner or a team manager, it could be a limitation of your event budget that cannot be increased easily. You are always on a budget. If you have enough money, then your limitation will usually be headcount. You may not have unlimited support when it comes to event preparation. And believe me, you want to have some support in there. This is not a one person job. You usually have some limitations that are inherent to your circumstances in a company. For example, if you want to do an event or a meeting when you want to discuss confidential materials, maybe you don't have the luxury of booking an external venue because you need to ensure confidentiality. So meeting spaces are a very limited resource in many companies, and this might be actually your limitation. If you want to bring together a lot of people, maybe you run out of meeting space. So those are the most common limitations that we think about when you think about, limited budget, tight space you need to work with. But there are some other limitations I believe you should take into account, specifically the fact that you have limited budget of attention of your participants, limited energy when it comes to the way they can absorb information or contribute to ideation sessions or to collective decisions. That's something that will determine how long sessions you can successfully run, how much you need to use breaks, etc., etc. So we'll get to that in a bit. Just want to say that we are always on a budget. And yay, I see we got some people joining. So if you are joining right now, I would like to know where are you joining us from. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comment on the side, whichever platform you're using. Let me know where you're joining from. I'd like to know, and I'd like to make sure that I'm covering the topics that you're interested in the most. So if we start with the basic part, you're always on a budget. Suppose you have a limited amount of money. I'm not gonna use a specific amount right now, but think about whatever is your budget for the upcoming event. Um, you need to start thinking from the very beginning about what's important for you and what is actually dispensable. What we often do with the budgets, with the events, we just kind of start from the middle rather than from the beginning. What I see my stakeholders often doing is like, okay, um, Alesh, we are running an event. Can you help us? And we have only this much money, and it needs to fit in this day, and it should bring these people together, and it should be in person. And my response usually is, wait, like why all these things? How did you land on these variables? How come you have all of this resolved without actually starting with the most important question, which would be, why do you even do the event? What's the point of organizing an event? And what is your objective in there? How are you gonna be different as a team, as an organization, let's say a month, 2 months, quarter, a year after this event? How is this event actually contributing to achieving the goals that you set for yourself? And of course, these goals can be business goals, it could be goals related to employee engagement, team cohesion, etc., etc. But how is this event serving you? So this is going to be something that's not really serving me well if I want to tell you how to run events. But the cardinal question here is: do you really need an event? Do you? Is there another way how you can achieve the objective you have? When it comes to, let's say, collective ideations, there are ways to execute collective ideation sessions asynchronously, meaning you can collect ideas from many people through different online mechanisms without bringing them together. And the results are not necessarily worse or less actionable. So sometimes you don't need the event. But let's assume you do. You want to have an event, you want to bring people together, and you believe there is a need to organize something that brings everybody into same space, either a virtual one or a physical space. So the second question should be: who absolutely needs to be in this event? What is the minimum number of participants that you need to invite who cannot miss this event? Those are all the questions you want to ask before. So what I'm actually saying, and if you're watching this live, the title for this is think as a leader when defining the purpose and desired outcomes of your event. You need to think about these things. Do you need an event? If the answer is yes, who absolutely needs to be there? A little bit like wedding planning. I was attending a wedding with a friend of mine the other day, and you're trying to look at the reasonable amount of guests that you can invite to keep it nice, cozy, and not to break a bank. A meeting, workshop, or a conference is not all that different. So sometimes we are going crazy about who needs to be there, and it is about FOMO. This stakeholder needs to be there because they are too high in the food chain. They need to be invited, and that means all their assistants need to be invited, etc., etc. No, they don't. No, they don't. Maybe it's too pricey for you not to invite those people, but that's a different story. So, question number one: do you need an event? Why do you need the event? It's question number two: why? What's the purpose? How do you know that you are actually achieving what you want? Then another question: who needs to be there? What's the minimum number of people, and who these people are supposed to be that need to attend? And the next question would be about modality. Can it be a virtual session? We are sometimes scared of virtual sessions. We're thinking, okay, we need to bring people to one physical room, and that brings the limitations when it comes to budget, because bringing people together physically is, of course, way more expensive than executing a virtual event. And mm, if we know what is the purpose of the session, oftentimes we can say that virtual or hybrid modality is perfectly fine. We just don't need to use face-to-face event for most purposes. We often believe we do. As I said earlier, ideation, collective decision making, collective brainstorming, but even collective problem solving, all of these things, which are usually the reasons for putting together a meeting, a workshop, or a conference, all of these can be accomplished virtually with very similar, if not superior, results. The same holds, by the way, for learning. You can accomplish learning through virtual modality very effectively and efficiently, of course. Is it always the case? Not always. There are some exceptions I'm going to mention in a bit. And the reason we are often shying away from that is because participants don't like it. I mentioned that I executed truckload of events, and I do collect feedback of participants every time. And what are people saying is that they're craving face-to-face events. So it's like for virtual events, yeah, it was okay, but I wish it was face-to-face. Of course they do. Participants will oftentimes, like most often, they will crave face-to-face events. But think about your objective. Is your objective to make participants happy? If it is, then by all means consider face-to-face event. If your objective is to disseminate information, share business updates with participants, make a collective decision, uh, have them learn something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to make them happy. You need to make them over the moon about the modality. So this may not be all that nice to hear, but that's the case. So think about virtual modalities where possible. It could save you, of course, ton of money and also some headache. You can also put together something in the middle. So I mentioned hybrid events. Hybrid event would be an event when you have participants physically present in multiple physical clusters, and this could be, in different buildings, different countries, different continents, if you will, and you only rely on decent internet connection and of course a reliable, capable enough virtual platform that would allow you to connect all these people together. So these are all possibilities which are cheaper than face-to-face events. But mm, suppose you're still going for face-to-face. It has its place, and I personally believe that the event only makes sense to run face-to-face if you are focused on participant experience. If you really want to reward participants, for example, it's a festive event after a successful quarter with a great business sales, you want to reward participants for something and give them this awesome face-to-face experience, then it makes sense. If you want to foster team building or team cohesion, especially among participants who don't know each other. It's very difficult for the new people to bond, to create human connections virtually. So that's also true for networking sessions. If you want to do networking, where people actually find some, relatedness among each other and want to connect more, even outside the event, you want to go for face to face. For everything else, you can consider the cheaper, simpler modalities. So that would be the design and the selection of modality. If you went through these steps, you have probably already saved a ton of money that you would otherwise have to spend. But let's move to the to the participant experience now, because what I advertised in the title is how to design an engaging event when you're on a budget. Right now it was all kind of Scrooge McDuck, like, okay, how do we make it cheap? But now, how do we make it great for participants? So what I said is, you need to think as a leader when defining the purpose and desired outcomes of the session. But on the other hand, once you've done that, you want to think as a participant. You want to think as a user when designing the experience. You need to respect the time of your participants, and you need to deliver value to them. The very, very human and legitimate question from everybody is, what's in it for me if I'm asked to participate on something? It's not necessarily seen as a reward or as something that's super cool. Why am I on this event? Why am I wasting my time traveling somewhere, sitting in the room, listening to some blah blah, and then go home just so I forget everything else a day later? And the only thing that's different for me is now I have this long, depends what's your role, this long backlog of emails I need to go through because I didn't manage to process them yesterday. I was sitting on an event that didn't bring me anything. That's a very common participant experience, again, based on the feedback I'm collecting from those events. The Let's say most disheartening feedback you can get as event organizer is if you organize a long complex event, and at the end the feedback is, oh, this could have been an email. Why was this live? So I could circle back here to the thinking of the purpose. I said not everything needs to be an event, and I'm saying here, be respectful to the time of your participants. So if something can be an email, it absolutely should. Blocking someone's time just for business updates that might be delivered asynchronously, meaning through an email, a memo, or something else, is not really the best use of your time or the time of the people you are inviting to the event. So that would be the thinking as a participant, but it can go much farther than that. Think about yourself and your last experience when you were participating on an event. How much did you spend really absorbed in the content of the event? How much you enjoyed every minute of the event, whatever it was? And how much did you actually multitask or daydream during the event? How much did you wish you were someplace else? How much time did you spend thinking that the lunch break is not coming fast enough? If this is going through your head as a participant of some events that you attended, the same things are going through the heads of every participant of the event you are going to organize. It's not going to be any different. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that your information you're delivering, your content you're delivering, your structure is somehow superior, and that people will be eternally grateful for the event organization. No, wrap it around what they need and what value can you provide. What I highly recommend to do when you're building an agenda, and here is where you can actually save a lot of money and time for yourself, is to think about the purpose of every single agenda segment. So if you look at your, let's say, 1 day, full day event, uh, think about every single presentation module, think about every single speech, every single fireside chat, workshop, whatever you have in the event, and ask the same questions you would ask for the event as a whole. Does this module, does this part of the agenda add value to participants? Does it support the objective of the session or not? And then you can ruthlessly cut parts of the agenda that don't serve the purpose. How is this saving you money when you're on a budget? Well, pretty simple, right? If you are really diligent, sometimes you realize you don't need 3 days event. You need only an event that takes 1 day, 1.5, and you're being then more mindful when it comes to the agenda structuring. The time is very precious, and the time that you save from the overall agenda or event time is actually something that will be used by participants to work for your company. So it's also something that you can consider a hidden cost of a conference, opportunity cost. It might not be a direct budget that you have for organization, but every single conference, event, meeting, you have it. Each of them has its overt and covert costs. The clear costs are how much money you're spending in your budget, how much time is needed from the preparation team, but the hidden costs are, of course, the costs, the salaries of the participants who are spending time with their work tasks, traveling to the conference venue, sitting there, getting content, and traveling back and then recovering from the awesomeness of the experience you provided. So if you make it shorter and more condensed, you are saving these hidden costs. Those are opportunity costs of your people and of your company. So that would be the experience part and the way you should think about every single segment. So I would say every single segment in the agenda is either directly leading to the objective of the event, or is supporting another segment that is leading to the objective of the event. If it does none of these things, then it should not be there. Sometimes I see modules or segments in the agenda when stakeholders just want to be there to deliver their speech. That's of course nice to have, but this has a price, and sometimes it only serves the person delivering the speech rather than the participants. So I love to work with stakeholders who actually consider the value that the event is delivering for participants. And I'm fortunate enough that most of them do consider this. So that would be the thinking modality. Think as a participant. And let's go now into some ways you can save actual money. So suppose you did cut the agenda. You really have the event that's to the point, delivering the objective that you want to deliver, and now you are looking for the best modality. I already mentioned that the modalities will be virtual, hybrid, and face-to-face. Virtual is adequate in most cases. You can just go with virtual. It is the very cheapest one, and it can actually do the job in most cases. A hybrid would be something in between, especially if you want to avoid long distance or international travel, when you have people kind of dispersed in, let's say, multiple branches of your company, or if you want to connect your stakeholders with customers and they are remote. It's also a really good modality for remote team events. If you have a team that is remote, dispersed in multiple locations, then it makes the most sense. And when it comes to what you need to spend on, the spending itself will be different for virtual events, of course, than for events that are hybrid or face to face. So let's move to the last part in here, which is actually the most important, to bring you some real actionable tips, and that is how can you spend wisely when it comes to the different types of events. So I mentioned the virtual event. So if you're running a virtual event, you already saved a ton by avoiding all the extra overhead for face-to-face or even hybrid. What you wanna spend on if you're running a virtual event is a really stable and capable platform. This platform should be something that allows you to engage participants host the number of participants that you need, and provide some opportunities for them to interact with you in real time or near real time. Event, in my opinion, to be engaging should be almost always interactive. Um, if you're not aiming at interaction at all, then I would again consider the asynchronous event, just pre-recorded address or pre-recorded video, an event that you're going to share with participants and let them consume it in their own time. Um, I mean, it's of course something that's an option, especially when you're not under time pressure to share business updates, business inputs in a specific time on a specific date with everybody at the same time. And in most cases, it is possible for people to kind of get familiar with your content over the course of a week or a couple of days. So very rarely do you need to do synchronous broadcast event with no interaction. So I would always say use virtual platform that allows interaction. But don't overspend here. It's very easy to overspend. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars for a holistic solution, for a bloated platform that allows you to do, event planning, organization, sending invites, issuing tickets, multiple tiers and stuff like that. This is all good for professionals who want to run events for their customers. It's also good for companies who actually get a lot of use from these events, meaning if you are really going to be running events very often on regular basis, let's say 3-4 events a month, then it makes sense. But in most cases, what I've seen in my sibling teams and orgs is they only run a handful of events a year. 4, maybe 5 events a year, and most of these virtual platform require like a yearly subscriptions. So you can get only a barebone platform for a couple of $100 a year, maybe single-digit thousands if you need a platform that can host a large number of people. Let's say if you need a platform that hosts 500 or 1,000 people, something like that, you will spend a couple of $1,000s a year, but that's enough. I would caution against platforms that would make you pay per participant. And these platforms exist. Usually, they have all of these perks that I mentioned. And I think for most company customers, this is not a great deal. For virtual events, as I said, you want to spend for a good platform, but you don't want to overspend. You don't want to actually spend for a lot of extra features in there. And the platforms I like depend on the type of event you want to use. I like to work a lot with Adobe Connect because it has a lot of interactive features with participants. Lately, I've been working with WebEx, with Zoom, which are less capable but easier to operate, especially for users who don't have that much experience with technology. And there are other platforms out there with some interactive features. Pick whatever is best for you. I'm going to talk about platforms in a separate video. Today is more about money. So let's talk about money for a little while longer. So virtual events, I said, must have virtual platform. Everything else is nice to have for virtual. Everything else. Don't worry about any other expenses that you would need. For hybrid and face-to-face sessions, I would say that the must-haves and nice-to-haves are a little different. So suppose you do or you organize a face-to-face event. By event, I mean even a workshop, even a small team meeting. It could be anything when you bring people together. I would say if your event is longer than 2 hours, a must-have is a refreshment. And I know it sounds silly, like why, right? People can buy their own coffee and stuff like that. I disagree here because the reason you are actually bringing people to the event is usually not to dig ditches or do manual work. You want them to think. You want them to participate on a session. You want them to use their brains. And there is a truckload of science actually documenting that we cannot focus for all that long. We humans are easily distracted. So sessions longer than 45 minutes are usually a waste of time. We don't like to hear that. We believe we can push through, but it's not all that easy. We are usually not getting much in. And also, what the science shows us, if you're hungry, if your brain doesn't have enough nutrition, you are not able to process information properly, and you are not able to think clearly. So if you want an optimal performance of your prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex is of your participants, you want to give them some snacks, you want to give them coffee, you want to give them something so they can actually stay focused. An extra benefit in here is it's a great networking opportunity for you that is free of extra charge. People will just summon around the coffee maker. They have some snacks together. They chat, and they can do the networking organically without you trying to come up with some awkward icebreakers and speed dating games. So that would be for me a must-have. What is also a must-have is adequate breaks. You would say the break doesn't really cost anything, and you would be right, but it costs you some time in your agenda. You do need to allow for breaks, and these breaks should be long enough for participants that they are not actually frustrated with them, and also long enough to accommodate for a buffer in case you run over in one session. This should not completely obliterate the break. I think that the gold standard is to have 15 minutes break at least every 90 minutes. So hour and a half session is like a maximum that you should run. Then give a 15 minutes break. Then maybe another session like that. And then if it's a full day event, you should go for a lunch break. Lunch break should not be shorter than 45 minutes. Don't make people run to have a lunch. Don't make people feel hurried. Let their brains and bodies rest a bit. They're going to show up refreshed after the break, and the time they're going to put in the session is going to be way more impactful than if you're trying to kind of cut it here and there and make a super packed day with no breaks. So that's something how you can get more value from the money you're already spending on the event. What would be recommended is for face-to-face events. If you want people to ideate, I would recommend work group materials. If you want people to ideate, if you want them to do something, make sure they have flip charts, they have good quality markers, good quality post-it notes if you need any. Don't go for the cheapest, because it's very frustrating if participants are trying to grab a marker, the marker doesn't work, or the marker works but then no one can read it from a distance. The same goes with post-its. I personally I only use this. Let me see if it actually zooms into that. Okay. Yeah. Oh, it does. Okay, so I only use Post-it Super Sticky from 3M. And by the way, I'm not paid by 3M for saying this. If you use like a brandless sticker, Post-it notes, my experience from facilitating session is you just put them on the surface and they start raining down during the day, which is very, very annoying. These will stay in place. So those are small investments, but they will make the experience less frustrating and any ideation or group session more fluid. So that would be recommended. And then what is nice to have would be paying and for an external motivational speaker. As I said earlier, I do collect feedback from participants of the sessions I support, and participants do love external speakers. And usually they bring a lot of value. They can energize your team, and they can deliver the same message that you as a team leader or organizer might be delivering, but it's just going to have a bigger impact in most cases, because it feels like they don't have so much skin in the game. If you do that, if you do invite external speakers, bear in mind that it's going to be pricier for you. It's going to be usually several $1,000s you would need to pay for a good enough keynote speaker. And I would highly recommend, if you're doing that, make sure that you have a pre-brief sessions with this person, and have them agree that they're going to adapt their content to the objective of your session. So if the objective of your session is team collaboration, make sure that the speaker is going to talk about that, and make sure that the speaker also knows the vernacular of your company a little bit more. So they can tweak their presentation, make it more reliable. Sorry, reliable. No, relatable, of course. And you see, I need a sip of water. This is water, I assure you. So it's going to be more relatable if the speaker comes with the content that is adapted for the audience and for the objective of the session. If you want to have similar effects, similar level of engagement, similar level of excitement, but you just can't spend a couple of thousand for a good keynote speaker, there's a cool solution here that's available, and at least it works well for me, which is asking for a senior speaker from within your organization, from within your company. And don't think about the team leader here. Think about multiple levels up in the company. So in smaller companies, it could be the founder. It should be the CEO. In larger companies, it should be someone high enough, ideally a VP, someone like that. My data shows that participants enjoy these sessions pretty much the same. They highly appreciate hearing from a senior stakeholder. And what is beautiful about this, you don't need to pay them. And here's actually the important lesson when it comes to how you can save money. I did earlier kind of promoted this session with the iron triangle of let me see where I have it. Yeah, iron triangle of event design. I did show this very image, and what I was actually saying is that it's very difficult to have a high quality event executed in short time on a low budget. But what you can do in here is you can trade budget for money, and the trade here means longer lead time allows you to execute an event cheaply. Internal VP speaker is a good example. You need to ask those speakers early, because usually their calendars are booked way to the future. And if you ask them 2 weeks before an event, chances are they are not going to be available. I suggest, especially when you're on a budget, work with as long lead time as possible. I'm usually preparing conferences with the lead time of 12 weeks or longer. And this goes for big annual conferences, of course. So not for a smaller events. When it comes to all hands or town hall meetings, you can have a neat session in 4 weeks lead time or less. But the latest conference I'm preparing as we speak is being prepared with a lead time of 18 weeks. Compared to the previous one, which was a little over 12 weeks. It's a night and day difference. I can afford to plan with lower amount of money and still accomplish whatever I need, because I can scope for longer time, for cheaper offerings. I can actually make sure that I book the rooms early on. I can get a highly important VP speakers, etc., etc. So longer lead time is what you should go for. If you can get it from your stakeholder, or if you have the time, plan ahead. Plan your events for a year ahead if you can. Just think about how many events will I need this year and what for. But now I'm going into a topic of its own, and that would be a topic of event strategy. So having a strategy helps with project management. Of course, events are no different in this case. Having a strategy makes all the difference. Okay, so I'm blabbering for a long, long time already. Let me finish with the last thing when it comes to spending wisely, and that is a thing that you don't need at all. And surprisingly, almost everyone thinks that you do need it and you do need to pay for it. And that would be swag. It seems that somehow we are obsessed with swag. We love free stuff. We love gifts. We love material objects, especially when we can get them for free with an event. But it costs a lot of money. And not only the swag itself, not only if you buy these items, be it pants, t-shirts, notebooks, whatever, especially if you want to get it customized or branded for the event, it may cost a lot of money. What you also need to account for is the time and complexity of distribution, unless you just dump it in one physical room and that's it. When you are running a hybrid event with multiple locations, you would need to kind of also accommodate the costs of sending it to those locations or procure it locally. All of this adds a lot of cost. And it might make participants a tiny bit happier in the moment, but it's like a popsicle, or an ice cream you get. It's fun in the moment, but it doesn't really leave any lasting impression, and it hardly ever supports what we spoke about at the beginning, which is the objective of the event. Swag is usually completely unrelated to the objective of the event. You will achieve the event objective whether you have swag or not. So that's an easy way to save a lot of money. I would personally um, advocate for having some swag, but this swag should be topical. It should really relate directly to the event. So, for example, for the last conference that we organized, we did provide a book to each participant, which was related to the theme of the conference. And we quoted from this book during the conference. The message of the conference tied into the message of this book. So this was a type of swag that is absolutely recommended to use, something that ties in and that allows participants to kind of bring it with them and live the message of the event for a bit longer. Everything else is expandable, I'd say, and you can save a lot of money there. So, because I want to keep it nice and compound and under 45 minutes. We need to kind of wrap up pretty soon. However, if you have questions, if there's anything that's on your mind you still want to ask, I'm happy to answer. I'm going to be monitoring the comments in here. If you want to drop something in here, I'm going to pick it up. Uh, if not, I would like to remind you that I am running these events every week. And next week, we are going to be actually talking with a guest. And it's a guest that is one of my favorites, I have to say. You may have seen him in my live stream, late last year. And it's gonna be my favorite coach and mentor and role model, Leo Babauta, who will talk about taming and overwhelming task lists. And he's very good at these things. He's a father of 6 kids who managed to change his habits and now leading a mastermind community related to habit forming and more. So that's something that's going to be happening next Thursday. You will be able to sign up for the event right after this event is over. And if you've been interested in the topic of today, which I hope you were, if you are interested in how to run impactful events, on a budget with a purpose and deliver what you need to deliver through them. What you can do is support my current initiative. I am now writing a how-to guide for these events. I'm writing a guide that would allow you to actually organize, design, and execute them with maximum impact with limited resources. If you want an early copy, please send me a direct message and you can have it. So that would be my offer for today. And by all means, if you like this content and if you like my other live streams or what I'm posting, follow me on LinkedIn. I'll do this regularly, and I'm always happy for more followers and also inspiration when it comes to new content. So thanks a lot. Have a lovely rest of the day, and I think I'll see you next week with my session with Leo Bavota.